Hi, this is part 4 of chapter 13. Going back just a little bit to the last topic, the punctuation review that we sort of covered is actually on page 270 of your book. And I recommend you memorize this. It's going to help you so much when you're using commas and semicolons. Okay, now we're going to talk about correlative conjunctions. They correlate things. Some of them are, as shown here, either or, not only but also, and neither nor. And then we're also going to talk about converting simple sentences into a variety of more complex patterns. Okay, certain conjunctions are always paired. Both and, not only but also, either or and neither nor. Use these in pairs. And when you're using them, you place them so that the words or phrases and clauses being joined are in parallel construction, meaning that if you're joining nouns, they all need to be nouns. If you're joining verbs, they all need to be verbs. If you're joining independent clauses, they need to all be independent. If you're joining prepositional phrases, they all need to be prepositional phrases. Okay, here's some examples. Either you may go in June or in July. Why is that not parallel? Well, it would be better if you said you may go either in June or July. You're closest to the things that are in parallel construction. Here's a prep phrase in June and then in July. So they need to be of equal value when you're joining them. Okay, here's not parallel. Not only am I pleased to have your assistance, but I am also honored. How can we make that better? We could say I am not only pleased, but also honored to have your assistance. Well, these are two adjectives. We're joining together with these two correlative conjunctions. So pleased and honored are of equal value. So they need to be close to what they're talking about. Okay, and the sentence variety, we've talked about simple and compound. We're going to go ahead and expand on complex and compound complex sentences in this section. And as a review, simple sentences have one independent clause. And here's an example: Data Point manufactures computers. Here's our subject, here's our verb, and here's our object. One independent clause. Two independent clauses is a compound sentence, and you're usually joining them with a conjunction of some sort. Okay, so we have Data Point makes a wide variety of computers. That's our one independent clause. It sells them around the world. That's another independent clause. They could both be sentences by themselves. And we're joining these two independent clauses with the coordinating conjunction and. A complex sentence has one independent clause and one dependent clause. Although its sales are primarily in computers, here's our dependent clause. This is not going to make sense by itself. It needs something to complete it. And then Data Point is introducing printers soon. That could be a sentence by itself. We're separating these by using a comma. One independent clause and one dependent clause makes it complex. The compound complex is a little more hard to determine because sometimes they're just not together like this. But a compound complex sentence has two independent clauses and one dependent clause. Okay, so we have Data Point, which recently introduced its printers. I'm going to say that which recently introduced its printers is our dependent clause. And notice that it's interrupting the flow of the sentence. Do we really need this information? No. So we're separating it by commas. Okay, data point leads the country in computer sales. There's one of our independent clauses. Moreover, what was moreover? It's kind of a transitional phrase. So it's not counting as as a dependent clause. It's just a transition into another thought. It maintains a full service program. This is another independent clause. So we have our two independent clauses and our one dependent, and then we just have this joining the two independent clauses. And that's I forgot the term, oh my gosh. That's one of those conjunctions. Conjunctive adverb, sorry. So it's not the same thing as a clause, it's an adverb. Okay, let's try this. Which sentence correct? Kim may start the job in either June or September, or Kim may either start the job in June or September. Which one's correct? Okay, so we have either or. She may start the job in either June or September, so we have the 2 months here. We could also state it as in either June or in September. We could imply this word right here. Okay, he was not only talented, but he was also personable. Or he was not only talented, but also personable. Which one do you think is correct? This is correct. He was not only, but also. He was talented and personable. What are both of those? Those are adjectives describing he. So they are of equal value here. So we should keep them together. She neither has the skills nor the training for this job, or she has neither the skills nor the training for this job. Which one do you think? This one here. Then we have our neither nor. She has this is the skills or the training. So these are of equal, the skills, the training. So these need to stay together to make sense with our neither nor combination. Okay, we're going to insert any unnecessary punctuation or any necessary punctuation in these review sentences. Okay, so Kim started her new job and immediately discovered that others considered her an authority and asked many questions. Whoa, okay. Kim started her new job. Immediately she discovered that others considered her an authority and asked many questions. What are we going to do with this? We don't need any punctuation because this is all necessary information. Even though we have two independent clauses here and then our one dependent clause joined by and, there's no punctuation needed here. These two are joined by and. So this is actually one thought. There's no interrupting elements. There's nothing that doesn't need to be there, so we don't need to put any punctuation. Just because a sentence is long doesn't mean you have to throw a comma or two in there. She tried to remember all the rules, but often she looked up answers in her textbooks and reference books. Okay, so do we need anything in here? She tried to remember all the rules. Here's our conjunction but. Often she looked up answers in her textbooks and reference books. What do you think? Ta-da, we need that comma there to separate these two independent clauses that are joined by the conjunction but. Our sales increased last year, therefore we will be giving bonuses this quarter. Our sales increased last year. We will be giving bonuses this quarter. What do we need here? That's right, we need a semicolon. And since this has more than 2 syllables, we need our comma here. And we're separating these two independent clauses with a conjunctive adverb because it's transitioning the thought. Okay, we will discuss our new product line, then we will discuss advertising. We will discuss our new product line as an independent clause. We will then discuss advertising as another independent clause, and we're separating it with then. And since we're using then, what do we have here? Well, we need our semicolon, but we do not need a comma after this because then is only one syllable. We feel, however, that the lawsuit is unjustified. Well, we feel, however, that the lawsuit is unjustified. Okay, so this is kind of just interrupting the flow of the sentence. So what are we going to do? Put some commas in there? Yes. So this isn't necessary. It's not interrupting the flow of the sentence. It's just not. It's just a transitional type of expression. So we put our commas around it. Our funds are limited, therefore we must look at all options. Okay, our funds is limited. Our limited is a independent clause. We must look at all options as a dependent clause. We're doing the one that's preferred. Okay, our funds are limited, so we must look at all the options. Okay. Now in casual writing, this one's okay, but in business writing, you probably want to do this. Okay, my cell phone stopped working, so I'll email you. Or because my cell phone stopped working, I'll email you. What do you think? It's going to be B because they don't like you to use so in business writing for some reason. Okay, Wallace Stegner said hard writing makes easy reading. And that is so true because if you structure your sentences, use the correct punctuation in the correct order, you're going to make it easy for a person to read. Remember, if you have to read a sentence more than one time to get the meaning of it, you probably want to reword it. So that maybe take a little extra time, but in the end, it's going to make it easy reading. Okay, that's the end of chapter 13.